Good morning. Today I'm going to read day 2 of Dr. Jung's story about the Anchorite, his active imagination about the Anchorite. And let me just get this lined up here properly so we can see what. Okay, so I won't be stopping. I'll be reading right through, and then I'll come back and deal with any questions you may have in the chat. So, day 2. I awaken, the day reddens the east. A night, a wonderful night in the distant depths of time lies behind me. In what faraway space was I? What did I dream? Of a white horse? It seems to me as if I had seen this white horse in the eastern sky over the rising sun. The horse spoke to me. What did it say? It said, "Hail him who is in darkness, since the day is over him." There were 4 white horses, each with golden wings. They led the carriage of the sun, on which Helios stood with flaring mane. I stood down in the gorge, astonished and frightened. 1,000 black serpents crawled swiftly into their holes. Helios ascended. Rolling upward toward the wide paths of the sky, I knelt down, raised my hands suppliantly, and called, "Give us your light. You are flame curled. Entwined, crucified, and revived. Give us your light, your light." This cry woke me. Didn't Ammonius say yesterday evening, "Do not forget to say your morning prayer when the sun rises"? I thought that perhaps he secretly worships the sun. Outside, a fresh morning wind rises. Yellow sand trickles in fine veins down the rocks. The redness expands across the sky, and I see the first rays shoot up to the firmament. Solemn calm and solitude on all sides. A large lizard lies on a stone and awaits the sun. I stand as if spellbound and laboriously remember everything from yesterday, especially what Ammonius said. But what did he say? That the sequence of words have many meanings, and that John brought the Logos to man. But that does not sound properly Christian. Is he perhaps a Gnostic? No, that seems impossible to me, since they were really the worst of all the idolaters of words, as he would probably put it. The sun, what fills me with such inner exultation, I should not forget my morning prayer. But where has my morning prayer gone? Dear sun, I have no prayer, since I do not know how one must address you. Have I already prayed to the sun? But Ammonius really meant that I should pray to God at the break of day. He probably does not know we have no more prayers. How should I know about our nakedness and poverty? What has happened to our prayers? I miss them here. This must really be because of the desert. It seems as if there ought to be prayers here. Is this desert so very bad? I think it is no worse than our cities, but why then do we not pray there? I must look toward the sun as if it had something to do with this. Alas, one can never escape the age-old dreams of mankind. So Anna, day 1 will be found in parts 21 and 22 on the homepage of this website, of this YouTube channel. Reading on, page 251. And I'm reading from the Red Book by C.G. Jung, the Reader's Edition. What shall I do this whole long morning? I do not understand how Ammonius could have endured this life even a year. I go back and forth on the dried up riverbed and finally sit down on a boulder. Before me, there are a few yellow grasses. Over there, a small dark beetle is crawling along, pushing a ball in front of it. A scarab. You dear little animal, are you still toiling away in order to live your beautiful myth? How seriously and undiscouraged it works. If only you had a notion that you are performing an old myth, you would probably renounce your fantasies, as we men have also given up playing at mythology. The unreality nauseates one. What I say sounds old. What I say sounds odd in this place, and the good Ammonius could certainly not agree with it. What am I actually doing here? No, I don't want to condemn him in advance, since I still haven't really understood what he actually means. He has a right to be heard. By the way, I thought differently yesterday. I was even very thankful to him that he wanted to teach me. But I'm being critical once again and superior, and may well learn nothing. His thoughts are not that bad at all. They are even good. I don't know why I always want to put the man down. Dear Beetle, where have you gone? I can no longer see you. Oh, you're already over there with your mythical ball. These little animals stick to things quite unlike us. Quite unlike us. No doubt, no change of mind, no hesitation. Is this so because they live their myth? In italics, dear Scarab, my father, I honor you. Blessed be your work in eternity. Amen. End of italics. What nonsense am I talking? I'm worshiping an animal that must be because of the desert. It seems absolutely to demand prayers. How beautiful it is here. How beautiful it is here. The reddish color of the stones is wonderful. They reflect the glow of 100,000 past suns. These small grains of sand have rolled in fabulous primordial oceans. Over them swam primordial monsters with forms never beheld before. Where were you, man, in those days? On this warm sand lay your childish primordial animal ancestors, like children snuggling up to their mother. In italics, O Mother Stone, I love you. I lie snuggled up against your warm body, your late child. Blessed be you, ancient mother. Yours is my heart and all glory and power. Amen. End of italics. What am I saying? What was the desert? How everything appears so animated to me. This place is truly terrible. These stones, are they stones? They seem to have gathered there deliberately. They're lined up like a troop transport. They've arranged themselves by size. The large ones stand apart. The small ones close ranks and gather in groups that precede the large ones. Here here the stones form states. Am I dreaming or am I awake? It's hot. The sun already stands high. How the hours pass. Truly the morning is nearly over, and how astonishing it has been. Is it the sun, or is it these living stones, or is it the desert that makes my head buzz? I go up the valley, and before long I reach the hut of the Anchorite. He is sitting on his mat, lost in deep reflection. And then this conversation. My father, I am here. Anchorite. How have you spent your morning? I. I was surprised when you said yesterday that time passes quickly for you. I don't question you anymore, and this will no longer surprise me. I've learned a lot, but only enough to make you even great but only enough to make you an even greater riddle than you were before. Why all the why all the things that you must experience in the desert, you wonderful man, even stones are bound to speak to you. Anchorite. I'm happy that you have learned to understand something of the life of an anchorite. That will make it, that will make our difficult task easier. I don't want to intrude on your mysteries, but I feel that you come from a strange world that has nothing to do with mine. You speak truthfully. I'm a stranger here, more foreign than you've ever seen. Even a man from Britain's remotest coast is closest to you, is closer. Even a man from Britain's remotest coast is closer to you than I am. Therefore, have patience, master, and let me drink from the source of your wisdom. Although the thirsty desert surrounds us, an invisible stream of living water flows here. Anchorite. Have you said your prayer? I. Master, forgive me. I tried, but I found no prayer. Yet I dreamed that I prayed to the rising sun. Anchorite. Don't worry yourself because of that. If you do find a word, your soul has nevertheless found inexpressible words to greet the break of day. I. But it was a heathen prayer to Helios. Anchorite. Let that suffice for you. I. But, O Master, I've prayed not only to the sun in a dream, but in my absent mindedness also to the scarab and the earth. Anchorite. Be astonished at nothing, and in no case condemn or regret it. Let us go to work. Do you want to ask something about the conversation we had yesterday? I. I interrupted you yesterday when you spoke to Philo. You wanted to explain your notion of the various meanings of particular sequences of words. Anchorite. Well, I'll continue my account of how I was freed from the awful predicament of spinning words. A man my father had set free once came to me. This man, whom I had been attached to since my childhood, spoke to me and said, quote, "O Ammonius, are you well?" "Certainly," I said. "As you can see, I am learned and have great success." He, "I mean, you are happy and are you fully alive?" I laughed. "As you can see, all is well." The old man replied, "I saw how you lectured. You seemed to be anxious at the judgment of your listeners. You wove witty jokes into the lecture to please your listeners. You heaped up learned expressions to impress them. You were restless and hasty, as if still compelled to snatch up all knowledge. You are not in yourself." Although these words at first seemed laughable to me, they still made an impression on me, and reluctantly I had to credit the old man, since he was right. Then he said, "Dear Ammonius, I have delightful tidings for you. God has become flesh in his Son, and has brought us all salvation." "What are you saying?" I called. "You probably mean Osiris, who shall appear in the mortal body." "No," he replied. "This man lived in Judea and was born from a virgin." I laughed and answered, "I already know about this. A Jewish trader has brought tidings of our virgin queen to a Jewish trader has brought tidings of our virgin queen to Judea, whose image appears on the walls of one of our temples, and reported it as a fairy tale." "No," the old man insisted. "He was the son of God." "Then you mean Horus, the son of Osiris, don't you?" I answered, "No, he was not Horus, but a real man, and he was hung on a cross." from a cross. Oh, but this must be Seth, surely, whose punishments our old ones have often described. But the old man stood by his convictions and said, he died and rose up on the third day. Well, then he must be Osiris, I replied impatiently. No, he cried. He is called Jesus, the Anointed One. Ah, you really mean this Jewish God, whom the poor honor at the harbor, and whose unclean mysteries they celebrate in cellars. He was a man, and yet the Son of God, said the old man, staring at me intently. That's nonsense, dear old man, I said, and showed him to the door, but like an echo from distant rock faces the words, return to me, a man and yet the Son of God. It seemed significant to me, and this phrase was what brought me to Christianity. End of quote. Now the discussion between Jung and the Anchorite continues. But don't you think that Christianity could ultimately be a transformation of your Egyptian teachings? Anchorite. If you say that our old teachings were less adequate expressions of Christianity, then I'm more likely to agree with you. Yes, but do you then assume that the history of religions is aimed at a final goal? The Anchorite. My father once brought a black slave at the market from the region of the source of the Nile. He came from a country that had heard of neither Osiris nor the other gods. He told me many things in more simple language that said the same as we believed about Osiris and the other gods. I learned to understand that those uneducated Negroes unknowingly already possessed most of what the religions of the cultured peoples had developed into complete doctrines. Those able to read that language correctly could thus recognize in it not only the pagan doctrines, but also the doctrine of Jesus. And it's with this that I now occupy myself. I read the Gospels and seek their meaning, which is yet to come. We know their meaning as it lies before us, but not their hidden meaning, which points to the future. It's erroneous to believe that religions differ in their innermost essence. Strictly speaking, it's always one and the same religion. Every subsequent form of religion is the meaning of the antecedent. Have you found out the meaning which is yet to come? Anchorite. No, not yet. It's very difficult, but I hope I'll succeed. Sometimes it seems to me that I need the stimulation of others, but I realize that those are temptations of Satan. Don't you believe that you'd succeed if you were nearer men? Perhaps you're right. He looks at me suddenly, as if doubtful and suspicious. But he continues, I love the desert. Do you understand? This yellow, sun-glowing desert. Here you can see the countenance of the sun every day. You are alone. You can see glorious Helios. No, that is pagan. What's wrong with me? I'm confused. You are Satan. I recognize you. Give way, adversary. He jumps up incensed and wants to lunge at me, but I am far away in the 20th century. Okay, I'm going to stop at that point, and I'll read the second part of day 2 tomorrow. Hello, Marcus, and hello, Anna. Anyway, let me now read the footnotes that go with the 8 pages that I've read, and then you can go back and look at day 1. Okay, so day 1, it says the corrected draft has the Anchorite second day morning. And then footnote, the next footnote, the Philosophical Tree, 1945. Keep in mind that this was being written in 1914. But in the Philosophical Tree, which was an essay of Dr. Jung, Jung noted, a man who is rooted below as well as above is sort of like an upright and inverted tree. The goal is not the heights, but the center. He also commented on the inverted tree in paragraph 410 and following in that particular essay. And the next footnote, it says January 1st, 1914. So this act of imagination was going on New Year's Day in 1914, and 7 months before the beginning of World War I. Okay, the text reads, they led the carriage of the sun on which Helios stood with flaring mane. The footnote reads, in Greek mythology, Helios was the sun god, and he drove a chariot led by 4 horses across the sky. On page 251, the text reads, over there a small dark beetle is crawling along, pushing a ball in front of it, a scarab. I beg your pardon. Okay. So in synchronicity as a principle of acausal connection, Jung wrote, the scarab is a classical rebirth symbol. According to the description in the ancient Egyptian book Tot, the dead sun god transforms himself to the 10th station into Khepri, the scarab, and as such mounts the barge at the 12th station, which raises the rejuvenated sun into the morning sky. And so that was Egyptian mythology. And the scarabs were, the balls that the scarabs were pushing are balls of feces. And so the scarab is taking from the previous life and creating a new life from it. And text reads, but that does not sound properly Christian. Is he perhaps a Gnostic? And the footnote reads, during this period, Jung was engaged with a study of Gnostic texts in which he found historical parallels to his own experience. Okay, and then there's a reference to 2 German texts, which I cannot pronounce, so I'm going to pass over that. You can get your own Jung's Red Book Reader's Edition, and you can see all these footnotes. Let me go forward. The text reads, what are you saying? You probably mean Osiris, who shall appear in the mortal body. The footnote reads, Osiris was the Egyptian god of life, death, and fertility. Seth was the god of the desert. Osiris was murdered and dismembered by his brother Seth. Osiris's body was recovered and put back together by his wife Isis, and he was resurrected. Jung discussed Osiris and Seth in Transformation and Symbols of the Libido, which is, in English, it's called Psychology of the Unconscious, and it's also collected work 5, I believe, at paragraph 358 and following. And then the text reads, then you mean Horus, the son of Osiris, don't you? And the footnote reads, Horus, Osiris's son, was the Egyptian god of the sky. He fought against Seth. And then right at the end, the text reads, "He jumps up incensed and wants to lunge at me, but I am far away in the 20th century." And the footnote reads, "The corrected draft continues, and I am unreal to myself as in a dream. Christian anchorites were perpetually on guard against the appearance of Satan. A famous example of temptations by the devil occurs in Athanasius's life of St. Anthony. In 1921, Jung noted that St. Anthony had warned his monks, quote, how cleverly the devil disguised himself in order to bring holy men to their downfall. The devil is naturally the voice of the anchorite's own unconscious that rises up against the forced suppression of his nature. St. Anthony's experiences were elaborated by Flaubert in his Temptation of Anthony, a work with which Jung was familiar. And that's from Psychology and Alchemy, Collected Works 12, paragraph 59. Now, I am going to terminate the reading at this point, but basically the key elements of this part of this reading are that all religions are in essence the same. That was one of the points that was made. And the second was this issue about St. Anthony, which is how the Catholic Church basically suppressed the unconscious among its monks. They just simply called it the devil, and that you had to fight against it. So when the monks were in their monasteries meditating and their unconscious started to present material to them, they simply called that the devil and tried to put it out of their minds. And that's what St. Anthony basically represented, apparently. But obviously, we have to understand what our unconscious can do and does do. And that's what this reading today has been all about. So thank you for being here today. I'm going to end this at this time. We have a group meeting tonight at 8 p.m., which will be carried by live stream this evening at 8 p.m., and that will include my webinar participants. So I'll see you then, and have a good day.